What's up, everyone? Today, I want to talk to y'all about how to have fulfilling relationships. Now, I want to first and foremost say please excuse the banging that you're probably going to hear in the spot that I'm recording at right now. Not only am I, next to the community gym, where there's only one person in there right now, but I did not expect them to be doing construction work. Soon I'm going to be able to have my own office space again and everything, but in the meantime, just bear with occasional banging and stuff like that. I promise the content is going to be worth it, so without further ado, let's get into it. So over the years, for those of you who have known me, y'all know that I actually talk mainly about relationships, probably more than anything else on my channel. Now, for those of you who understand type, which is probably the vast majority of you, it could just mainly be because I'm an Enfj, and so I'm always looking at the meta perspective of a relationship, and I'm always trying to understand relationships and interpersonal dynamics and how to evolve them, how to get the most meat out of them, how to find their weak points and then fix them, how to improve them, and how to just pretty much get the best out of relationships, the best value, how to manage them in a way. So over the years, you'll see, for those of you who've been rocking with me for the past however many years, and even if you haven't, you can check out some of my older videos. I'm always talking about relationships and my insights from relationships, from observing other people's, or from just observing my own relationships. And when I say relationships, I don't mean just romantic relationships. In fact, if anything, I'm focusing more on platonic/friendships. And then it could bleed into romantic relationships, because I think that a lot of things actually start with the platonic. And if anything, the biggest mistake that I see nowadays, personally speaking, is that a lot of people don't build their romance on a platonic dynamic. They're so focused on falling in love with each other that they don't even focus on liking each other. And I know that might not make a lot of sense to people, but essentially, if they're so focused on all the romance and everything in that relationship, because as soon as they got to know each other and they were just focused on like, are we gonna be able to date? Are we gonna get together? Then once they get married and they're together for a while, then eventually, if they're not having all the goo goo gaga type of googly eyes and all this romantic stuff to it, they can't just chill and just be cool. Like, they're gonna feel always a need to have to we're not kissing right now, we're not holding hands, and we're not saying meaningful words. You wanna watch TV? Dang, I didn't know that you didn't like this show. I thought that how else are we gonna connect? I guess all we can do is just, do the romantic stuff. And then eventually a lot of times that leads to very subpar dynamics or cheating. And of course, there's people who go the opposite direction as well, where they focus so much on the platonic elements that they don't have enough romantic elements, and it's like, oh, you two are like roommates. So anyway, but this is not that kind of video. Today, like I said, what we're going to be talking about is how to have fulfilling relationships. And like I also said, I talk about relationships all the time, so a lot of videos that y'all could probably reference, because I speak more in depth into certain subcategories in these videos that y'all can check out, and then this is going to be like an over-encapsulating video. So I want this video to pretty much take all of the meat from those other videos and then summarize them into one big thing that I can give you guys so that y'all can, go and take action with it. So some of the videos include 5 aspects of a healthy relationship, featuring Kylisa Freeman, where we're talking about not only a healthy relationship with, romantic relationships, but also with platonic relationships. You can also check out my video on toxic relationships. You can check out my video on seasonal friends. You can check out my video on idealizing your circle, or knowing your circle, and then how to make those friendships kind of count. Honestly, there are just so many videos out there that I might even reference throughout this video that y'all can just go check out. But if you're here right now, you don't have to watch those as a prequel, because if anything, I'm going to be addressing a lot of the things that you're probably going to be seeing in those videos. And definitely, actually, the biggest video that you should probably check out is how to effectively manage your social energy. I think that that's going to be another one, a big one, staple piece of this video that I'm going to be referring to. But nonetheless, okay, let's finally get into it. I listened to a podcast that was sent to me by my other Enfj friend. Shout out to you, Liz. And essentially, this podcast, I'm putting the link in the bio, but this podcast is amazing, guys. It's with Natalie Liu, and it's episode 249, and it's called The Trouble with Bare Minimum Relationships. The name of the podcast is The Baggage Reclaim Sessions. Honestly, this is the first podcast of hers that I've listened to, but man, it's 27 minutes and nothing but gold. Nothing but gold. Like, wow. And after listening to it, then I was just so inspired that I was like, yeah, I just have to make like one final video just encapsulating everything about relationships. So I'm going to be summarizing and taking pieces of a lot of what she said, but also, like I said, I'm taking things from my old videos, I'm taking things I've also learned, I'm just taking it all and putting a bow on it. So definitely check out that podcast after watching this video to fill in certain holes, because man, I cannot emphasize enough, like that podcast was rich. And like I said, it's 27 minutes. So please, yeah, definitely check it out. Link will be in the bio. But essentially, that podcast was talking about bare minimum relationships and how they do not produce intimacy. So first and foremost, let's talk about, what does it even mean to have a bare minimum relationship? Well, bare minimum is doing the least possible commitment and work, effort, or energy to get by and receive a result. So essentially, you can even think of it like she makes the claim, for example, that it's what companies do. You know, a company might be like, hey, if I could pay you less, I would, but I know that it would be illegal to do so. So therefore, here you go.
Minimum wage.
Like, I'm paying you the least amount that I possibly can and get away with legally and still have you around. Now, we can understand how this could be like with companies. Sure, you know, they have to get money. There's just a whole bunch of factors there. But this should not be the case when it comes to our friendships or our romantic relationships. So when you have a partner, when you have a friend who's doing the bare minimum, that means that they are literally doing the smallest that they could possibly do just to still keep you around as a friend and to get by. Another video reference that just came to mind. I made a video on soul ships with my friend, my other Enfj friend, Stephanie Vasquez. We used the analogy of a flame. Me and Stephanie both, as Enfjs, we see relationships as like flames, like as a fire of some sort. And we view ourselves as the people who are constantly putting firewood into that fire, you know? And it takes two people or everyone involved surrounding and being warmed from that fire to also put in firewood. Now, naturally, I personally attribute it to being an Enfj. I don't expect people to put in as much energy, as much firewood into that fire as I do. I don't expect them to equate how much I put in, because I personally, honestly, in my head, I've already come to terms with I'm always going to do more. That's just what it is. It's not to make myself seem like, oh, you know, I'm better than everyone. No, I just have probably more of a bandwidth. I have a better understanding, not in an arrogant way, but it just is what it is. And I probably do care more. I don't know. But to me, I'm not looking for equality. That would be nice. That would be amazing, you know. But that's not what I'm looking for. That's not my cutoff. What I'm looking for is effort. How much effort are you actually putting into actually putting in the firewood? If you see me putting in the firewood and you're just like filing your nails, you know, there's going to be times where literally, and I've done this several times, I will step back and I'll wait and I'll see how long will it take before you see this fire is dwindling so low that it's almost mere embers before you're like, oh my goodness, we have to start putting firewood in. And are you gonna start blaming me like, Denzel, why didn't you put any firewood in? Not even noticing that you didn't do it yourself? Or are you just gonna let it die? Which, fortunate to say, a vast majority of my friendships that I've run this test with did allow the embers to then become, well, nothing at all. And that taught me a lesson from like day one. From those times up until now, I've put up with so many embers and dying flames for that reason, because I thought that this was the best that I can do. I thought that I was fated to not having as great of fulfilling relationships and friendships. So I would do whatever I possibly can to still keep these burning, because, hey, something is better than nothing, you know? Sure, I'm the one who's always hitting you up. Sure, I'm the one who's always trying to keep the conversation going and actually bringing substance into it. Sure, I'm the one who's always like actually thinking of you and, you know, just finding ways to feed the connection. But when I started meeting friends who are actually capable of also doing that, and maybe my other friends were capable of doing it, but they just didn't have the desire to, so they stuck to doing the bare minimum. I didn't put up with that anymore. I didn't put up with that anymore, you know? As a matter of fact, to this day, now that's what's come to where I started to categorize my friends. So for those of you who have seen my video on how to manage your social energy more effectively, y'all know that I pretty much said that I view myself now as a limited source of water. And all of my relationships are like plants. I have different circles, like rings and layers of circles, that since I'm a limited source of water, what I have to do is that I have to make sure that I water the most prioritized plants first, and then I go down that list. And sometimes that means that if there's a lower one in the hierarchy, they're probably not going to get much water. And that's not necessarily as a punishment, but the thing is, the higher up that you are in that hierarchy, which you deserved, then the more of a priority you're going to be, because you produce the most fruit. For me, it's a reciprocal dynamic. And not everybody wants to be higher up in that hierarchy. Like, from a conceptual view, it's like, yeah, of course I want to be at the top in all of this. But then when I've actually given people the opportunity to do that knowingly, they've quickly realized, like, oh, you know what? It's kind of hard work being up here, you know, because I actually have to give back more than I'm willing to give, or I have the opportunity to give. And they can't get away with the bare minimum, at least my definition of bare minimum. And so therefore, it's like, you know what, I think I'm okay with being lower down on the scale. That doesn't mean that we have bad blood with each other. It just means that, well, you're lower down in the scale. So this scale that I'm talking about is, once again, like a few different categories. So the highest and first and foremost scale that I have is the goddess category. This is pretty much, obviously, Jamila, my wife. She is the one, I call her the flower on my windowsill. First thing that I do when I wake up in the morning is I make sure, let me check on that flower, let me water that flower with the first amount of energy that I have, just to make sure that that flower is always set, that flower is always good. That's my biggest priority. And second down on that list, because by that time, like, Jamila does not need much water, you know? And so because of that, in fact, if anything, when me and Jamila speak, she often says how I'm pretty intense and I have a lot of water, so what am I going to do with all this excess water? Well, she delightfully allows me to spread it to other people. So that there goes the second list, which I call the intimates. This is made up of, at max, it doesn't even get up to 10, but maximum, 6 to 10 people. And these are the people who it doesn't mean that we're talking every single day, although for a few of them we are talking every single day, or at least every week, you know, but we're keeping in a pretty good connection. We have all of our conversations, it's both quantity and quality conversations, you know, it's not just quality, but every blue moon, and it's not just quantity, but then with no substance. You know what I mean? It has both. These are the relationships that right after I water Jamila, then I check on them and I make sure that those ones are okay, and I give them the water that they need. And the intimates and the goddess produce fruit almost immediately. And when I say by produce fruit, what I mean by that is that they give back reward. You know, there are certain plants that you have to pour all of your water out for months, almost starving, before finally they bear you fruit. And even then, it's like, was the fruit even worth all the water that you spent on this plant? A lot of times it's not. So you got to be careful with that. So for me, when it came to that, then I had all of my intimates and I learned how to do that. Right underneath the intimates, I have the best friends. Best friends, I treat them pretty well too. I treat them great, you know. It's just that they are not an intimate. They can't take that much water. They can't take that much intensity, and that is totally fine. Right below that, there is the friends. And somebody's really singing as they're working out. I'm so sorry about that. Right below that is the friends level, you know. And then right below friends are acquaintances, and then right below acquaintances are strangers. All of these categories are very well defined, and in my head, that's my way of being able to make sure that I do not spread myself too thin, and that the people who deserve the best and most quality prioritized sides of me are getting exactly that. And I'm also in this way making sure that I'm always tracking my relationships so that people who are not doing bare minimum work will not be getting high quality wages from me, because that's just not how this works. Now, something that you have to be able to know in order to do when you're trying to decide how to have a fulfilling relationship, or like make this type of like category list, is, okay, what do I want? Again, I was talking about the fruit, and you might hear some of this back in the video on how to manage your social energy. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are bad per se. You know, you will run into bad people, but what I mean by this is that if I want an apple tree and then I see a banana seed, and I personally do not like bananas, why would I water the banana seed? You know, it just wouldn't make sense to. And that doesn't have a problem with me. There's other people who would love that banana seed, and I think those people should water it, but I'm going to focus on my apple seed, you know? And so what I mean by that, like bringing it down to earth, is that you have to know what you want in relationships. And a lot of times, you won't be able to know what you want in a relationship, friendship, don't forget that. We're not talking about just romantic, we're talking about platonic too. You won't know what exactly you really want and need in relationships unless if you try it. I won't know that I don't like bananas until I actually try the banana. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't think that I like this. It doesn't mean that everybody who does like bananas, now something's wrong with them, or that something's wrong with the banana itself. It's just not my taste. So I don't want to invest in bananas when I love apples. So in that sense, if I have someone who's like, yo, they're really cool and, you know, there's nothing wrong with them, but they're just not my taste of a person, I'm not obligated to feed that relationship, just like they're not obligated to feed me. And that's okay. That takes a little bit of communication. They might have tried it and it's like, oh, you know, I don't really, like, he's a little bit too eccentric for me, or he's a little bit too whatever it might be, like heady. I don't know what it might be. And that's okay. I don't have to take that personally. It's kind of like how dating works, you know? And so you have to know, if you're trying to have this fulfilling relationship, what do you want? Then when you know what do you want, you have to know, okay, as I'm thinking of this specific person, have they demonstrated this before? You know, like, do they even have the potential to be able to present this kind of energy that I'm looking for in this relationship? Because if they don't even have the potential, then you're pretty much trying to grade a fish's ability to be able to climb a tree rather than its ability to be able to swim. You know what I mean? It doesn't make the fish necessarily evil. Once again, it's just a banana versus an apple situation. You have to know what you want in the relationship, like what's going to be considered the bare minimum that you would even accept, and then what's going to be like the high quality that you want, you know? And honestly, you also have to understand, like, are they even just in a rough season? There's some people who do have the potential and they have been able to give you that energy, but now it's like, man, honestly, right now, I gotta be honest. Like, I'm going through losing my child. I'm going through a breakup. A divorce. Maybe I'm going through hardships with losing my job. Whatever it might be. They might have some tough stuff going on. Make sure to inquire about that first. The reason why it's important for you to inquire about that first is because if you don't, then what's going to end up happening is you are going to resent them. And take that from me. You're going to resent them because you are thinking that they can pretty much provide what you're able to provide or what you're expecting them to be able to provide when they really just can't. Or even if they can, because they probably have done so in the past, they can't at this time. So you should check in and be like, hey, is this all right? Communicate. Communication is key to a relationship. You guys have all heard it, but it's so true. You guys have to be able to communicate. Let the person know, like, hey, this is what I'm sensing from this dynamic. This is what I've maybe you don't realize this is what I need, but I would like for our relationship to look more like this. Are you capable of providing that right now or ever? If not, then we have to recalibrate what we're going to do about the relationship. We have to recalibrate what these expectations are. When you're able to do that, then you'll be able to know, like, okay, can I still deal with this person? Do I have enough bandwidth, energy, and water to be able to still water that plant, even if it's more seldomly? Or is this somebody that I might have to just part ways with? Which that's happened for me a lot of times too. It's like, oh, you know what? I'm so focused now on my more quality dynamics. That doesn't mean that I have beef with the people who are giving me bare minimum, once again, according to my definition of bare minimum. But it just meant that at the end of the day, I didn't want to invest that much energy in them anymore because they didn't know how much it was taking from me to keep them on my radar. Whereas like to them, it seemed like they weren't even giving much. And I had to protect myself in that way. Some of these people, I didn't necessarily ghost them. Like, we still talk. Like, if they choose to throw a twig into the flame, I'll let it, do a little something, we'll have a little chat, and that's cool, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to invest as much as I used to because I have just way more quality flames. And again, that's not to say that person is less quality as like altogether, but just less quality to me in the relationship. Less of a I feel like y'all get what I'm saying, so I'm gonna just continue to move on. I think what I really want to emphasize is that your bare minimum may be other people's standard. So therefore, do not demonize other people. This is what I was talking about in my toxic relationships video. A lot of people consider relationships to be toxic when in actuality, they're just different. So what I mean by that is that a lot of people will have a relationship where they're just simply not compatible. And what I mean by compatible is that, oh, this person is a banana tree and I don't like bananas. But then they're calling the banana toxic. And it's like, no. Maybe the banana is toxic to you, as in like maybe it brings out the worst in you. Maybe the banana, because you two just don't get along, the banana causes indigestion and now all of that. But don't go around telling everybody that bananas are disgusting and etc. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, it's not right. Instead, realize your bias and realize that perhaps we just have a difference in approaches to a relationship, and therefore maybe our relationship was toxic. We can have a toxic relationship without either of us being toxic people. So I think that that's something that we really should be careful of, and know that some people, they require more than others do. And again, that's all right. We all know these phrases, it's very popular, where it's like, your too much will not be too much for other people. You know what I mean? So in that sense, if you feel like you don't require that much and you're all right with people giving you what most might consider the bare minimum, there's nothing wrong with you. That's all right. You don't need that much. But then there are people who we might call them needy, when in actuality it's like, well, no, like needy is a derogatory term in a way. It's kind of offensive and insulting, and it makes it seem like there's something inherently wrong with that person, when in actuality they just require more attention than maybe other people or you would. And they can find somebody else who would be able to do that for them. It doesn't make the needy person toxic, and it doesn't make the more secluded person or detached person to be anything worse either. So in wrapping up, what I'm pretty much essentially saying is that when it comes to having a fulfilling relationship, number one, understand the concept of bare minimum. How much is this person going to give you? How much do you need in this friendship / relationship? And how much can this person actually give in this time and for the longevity? And will that be sufficient for you? You have to know these things. Also remember that this is going to require you two to communicate, you five to communicate, whatever it is, y'all have to communicate, because y'all are different people, y'all are going to have different needs. You have to communicate before you get to a resentment type of state of mind, like, hey, my needs in this relationship are not getting met. I want to communicate and understand, like, is there a reason? Maybe you don't know that I have this need. Can I request more of this from you? Maybe you're trying to meet my love language with gifts, when in actuality it's quality time or even more words of affirmation. Are you capable of giving more words of affirmation? If not, do I really need words of affirmation for this relationship to work? Or is it something that's like, well, I think I can do without it. Like, that's all right, because I know that you're giving me love in other ways. Or are you not giving me love almost at all? And why is that? Like, are you just in a rough time? Do you need any help? Try to be empathetic and understanding, but also don't let people just walk all over you and treat you like you're invaluable. Like you have no value, pretty much, to them. Because there's gonna always definitely be people who will see you as valuable. And those are the people that you wanna check out. Another video that I wanna just end off with that you guys should check out is the Twitter effect. That's what I called it, which is pretty much the idea of finding your own tribe. That the more that you say and speak your truth, you're gonna repel certain people, but you're also going to attract other people. If I stand in a room, metaphorically, and I just start speaking everything in my mind and all of me, there's going to be people who have already been in that room that are honestly going to get up and leave, but then there's going to be other people who might be walking by in the metaphorical hallway, and they're going to be like, yo, what's this person saying? I really like this. I've been waiting for this. Whoa, I totally agree. Or even if I don't agree, this is fascinating, it's challenging, I appreciate it, and they're going to come in. That the people who remain to the end, those are my tribe. That's my tribe. That's my people. Those are the ones that you want to invest in the most. So don't go out here tossing your pearls to swine. You are valuable, and I really want you to know that, because I feel like, especially as an ENFJ 9, this is something that I have struggled with for so long. And again, you can watch my videos and you can see the anguish that I've had for years trying to find these fulfilling dynamics. And now I feel like I've actually gotten to a point where nobody's ever really had everything figured out. But from looking at where I was to where I'm at now and focusing so much on this, it's like, wow, I think I have it figured out enough to where I'm very happy with the relationships that I have. And I find that I can communicate very well with these people, and I can trust, I feel secure with them. And I feel like I'm also at a point now where, like, before I used to see myself as like, oh, maybe I'm boring. That's why my coworkers don't invite me out to hang out with them. Or like, maybe that's why this person doesn't message me back. Maybe yada, yada, yada. Like, I just always felt like I was thinking so much more of these people than they were of me, and that meant something to do with me. Like, I had the deficiency in some way. But it's like, no, I'm pretty dope. I'm pretty cool, and I'm embracing that. And just because somebody else is not able to see the treasure that's in me does not mean that other people will not. And now that I've met people who are able to see that treasure, as I've also done the work to be able to view that treasure in myself, because that's another thing. You gotta make sure that you're doing the work to be able to dig into your own intimacy, to be able to understand intimately who you are before you're able to understand somebody else. So once you're able to understand another person, once you're able to understand who you are at heart, then you're gonna also be able to help other people to understand who you are at heart. And then that's when they're gonna know, like, no, I'm gonna leave, but you can have that. Or people are gonna actually try to connect with you based off of that. So that's a really big thing, which is actually a quote that goes with it that I posted recently from Dario Nardi. And I just wanna quickly end off on that quote. It says, "Intimacy requires as much introspection and interchange as it does communication. It is an inner choice as well as an outer one." It's from Dario Nardi, The Magic Diamond, in the FE Extroverted Feelings section. So I think that I've exhausted this topic now, both in this video and on my page. If you would like coaching, whether it's relationship coaching, whether it's learning what personality type you are, whether it's knowing what Enneagram type you are, whether it's understanding deeper who you are as a person and developing how to use your personality type, or like you as a person better, like whatever it might be, if you just want to talk about certain concepts that I've even spoke about, hit me up at dz2blessed@icloud.com. You'll see the link in the bio to be able to check out the services that I offer for coaching and for profiling sessions, stuff like that. And if you want to join a community of great minds and people who are intentional about getting to know you and everything, I have a group chat on my for my subscribers called Ponder Palace. It's on an app called Telegram. If y'all would like to be a part of it, email me at that same thing. Just title it Telegram and then tell me your name, what type you are, and I will send you the link that you'll be able to add that you'll be able to join the group. If you don't mind, also just add a little bit about yourself, so that we kind of like know like who's like, coming into the group in a way. There's a little bit of like a vetting process of some sort so that we can keep the environment still like really, like kind, while still also intellectual in nature and a whole bunch of other stuff. It has a whole bunch of different branches to it. We have Poetry Palace in there, we have Painters Palace in there, we have Party Palace. Clearly I love alliteration. We have a hopefully soon to be a role play kind of like palace thing. So I'm thinking about calling that anemone. I'm thinking about calling it Play Palace. And so yeah, we're having a lot of fun in there. And I feel like, who knows, you might be able to find some really dope friendships and relationships in there, engaging with somebody in that chat and be like, yo, I actually really like the way this person thinks, and then taking it into a private room. I'm kidding. When I say private room, I mean like, just like a group chat. Like it's not that type of chat. Anyway, so yeah, hit me up over there. And share this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. If you liked the video, then go ahead and like it. If you don't like the video, then you could just leave it alone. Sorry it wasn't for you. But yeah, thanks for watching, y'all. I appreciate it. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Done. Hey, I just wanted to briefly thank you for taking the time to watch this video, whether it was on regular speed or 2x speed, whatever it was. Just thank you for consuming the content. And around me, you should be able to see a few little buttons and logos for other recommended videos, because, I make good content, new ones, but then I also have some really good old content too that you should probably check out. But make sure that if you really like this video, feel free to subscribe, to share. It really helps this humble channel to expand and reach more people and ultimately help more people. So once again, thanks for watching, and hope you have a great rest of your day.